Now let's solve some equations. For this entire section, all of these equations are, well, one side of the equation will be factorable, and the other side needs to be 0. In other words, it has to be in standard form. So remember, if a times b equals 0, then a equals 0 or b equals 0. That is our guide for the entire section. So if x minus 9 times x plus 6 is 0, that means x minus 9 is 0, or x plus 6 is 0. If x minus 9 is 0, that means x equals 9. Or if x plus 6 is 0, that means x is negative 6. So the two values for x that solve the equation are 9 and negative 6. In part B, it's in standard form because everything is on one side, 0 is on the other. So we need to factor first. This factors as x minus 6, x plus 4. Setting each factor to 0, we would have x minus 6 is 0, or x plus 4 is 0. If x minus 6 is 0, that means x is 6. Oops, that's really far over there. That's okay. Or if x plus 4 is 0, that means x is negative 4. So the two solutions to x squared minus 2x plus minus 24, is x is 6 or x is negative 4. Part C, we're in standard form, but now we have to factor. Notice we can pull out a 3x squared. If we pull out a 3x squared, we're left with x squared plus 7x plus 12. Copying down the 3x squared, we now factor x squared plus 7x plus 12, which factors as x plus 4, x plus 3. We now have three factors. 3x squared, x plus 4, x plus 3. We set each of them to 0. So if 3x squared equals 0, and we divided by 3, that would say x squared equals 0. Well, what number squared is 0? 0. And if x plus 4 equals 0, it looks like a 9. Let me rewrite that real quick. That's good. If x plus 4 is 0, that means x is negative 4. And if x plus 3 is 0, that means x is negative 3. So this one had three solutions. Whee! In part D, standard form, check. Let's factor. We'll take out a 2, and we would be left with x squared plus 9x plus 18. The 2 carries down, and that trinomial factors as x plus 3, x plus 6. Technically, we have three factors like before. The 2, the x plus 6, x plus 3, and then the x plus 6. However, the 2, if we set 2 equal to 0, what do we get for x? Nothing, because there's no x there. So the 2 does not contribute any values for x. If we set x plus 3 to 0, we would get negative 3. That's a terrible equal sign there. And then if we set x plus 6 to 0, we would get x to be negative 6. So we only have two solutions here, negative 3 and negative 6. Remember, in all these, you should put your numbers back in to check. Now let's try a couple more. In part E, we are not in standard form. Remember, that is step 1. So we are going to subtract 9x from both sides. And now we'll factor. We'll take out an x. Remember, that's the GCF. And we would be left with 7x minus 9. Setting each factor to 0, we would get x to be 0. And the other one comes from 7x minus 9 equaling 0. So if we added 9 and divided by 7, we would get 9/7. So we have two solutions, 0 and 9/7. Part F, just like Part E, write it in the standard form by subtracting 9x from both sides. Factor out an x. And then x squared minus 9, how does that factor? It's a difference of squares, x plus 3, x minus 3. So we have three factors, set them each to 0. The first one would say x equals 0. The second one would say that x is negative 3. And the last one would say that x is positive 3. So we have three answers there, 0, negative 3, and positive 3. And lastly, in Part G, we have a greatest common factor of 2x squared. If we pulled out a 2x squared, we would be left with 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. The 2x squared copies down. 12x squared plus 5x minus 2 factors as 4x minus 1 times 3x plus 2. Now you might be like, where did that come from? Well, you got three terms. The leading coefficient's not a 1, so you should try factoring by grouping. I'm not going to show you the work for it because we are well past that. So take the time, pause the video if you need to, sit down and do a times C, what multiplies 12 times negative 2, that adds up to 5. And then go from there. Continuing, if we set each factor equal to 0, if 2x squared equals 0, that means that x squared equals 0 by dividing by 2, which means that x equals 0. So that's one answer. If 4x minus 1 equals 0, that means that x is 1/4 by adding 1 and dividing by 4. That's another answer. And if 3x plus 2 equals 0, that means that x is a negative 2/3 by subtracting 2 and adding 3. So that we have three answers yet again.